through day two, midway of day two for CCP's 11th CEO Investor Forum, an opportunity for leading CEOs to share their integrated, sustainable value creation business plans with investors around the world. And we've had a number of CEOs across industries who've spoken so far. And I'm now delighted to introduce Calvin Butler, President and CEO of Exelon, really one of the leading utility companies. It's the number one holding company of utilities here in the US. Cracked the Fortune 100 this year as well in terms of its revenue size. So Calvin, we're delighted to have you on.
Hey, good morning, and I'm excited to be on. Thank you.
Great. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over to Calvin. He's going to share his plans utilizing the C-suite framework, and then we'll be back with any questions that the audience has for Calvin as we wrap up. So Calvin, it's over to you.
Thank you again. But first, I'd just like to thank you, Daryl, and your entire CECP team for inviting me to share Exelon's story and for all that you do to harness the power of business to make our world brighter and more equitable. For those of you who aren't familiar with Exelon, I'm excited to share our story with you. And for those that are current shareholders, thank you. I'm looking forward to spending time talking about our company's strategy and how we're managing the risks and opportunities associated with the energy transformation, which is very much linked to how we create value for our shareholders. Before I begin, let me direct you to the cautionary statements on slide 2 and 3 of the presentation, as I will make forward-looking statements that are subject to risks and uncertainties. I will also reference non-GAAP measures and reconciliations to the nearest GAAP measures, which can be found in the appendix. Let me start with a quick overview of who Exelon is. We are the leading transmission and distribution utility in the United States. We deliver primarily electricity as well as gas across 6 state-regulated jurisdictions, which includes transmission that is regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Across those states, we serve some of the largest and oldest cities in the United States, including Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. As a result, we serve more customers than any other utility in the United States, over 10.5 million, representing a population of close to 22 million. As a fully regulated utility, our revenues are set by utility commissioners who compensate us for the investments we make in the grid to deliver energy. That net investment in our energy system is referred to as our rate base, and at $56 billion, we have the second largest amount in the United States among those utilities that do not own generation. This size gives us a distinct voice in the energy transformation, and our scale also makes us unique. I mentioned we serve 7 jurisdictions, which covers infrastructure in Illinois, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. These states are also some of the most progressive in the United States in terms of leading the way on the energy transformation, and we're honored to be a critical partner in doing that. In delivering energy, we cover several types of assets. 1, electric transmission, the infrastructure that is needed to move lots of electricity over longer distances, getting it to the regions where customers need it. Electric distribution, the infrastructure needed to deliver electricity to homes and businesses. And gas distribution, the portions of our business dedicated to delivering gas to homes and businesses where we offer it. But what you didn't hear me talk about was power generation. We do not own any, which again makes us very unique from most of our peers. For the states in which we operate, the generation of power is deregulated, meaning it's open to competition. And while we used to own some deregulated power assets, we spun that business off in early 2022. So we are just pipes and wires used to deliver the energy to our customers. Those wires also are increasingly used to connect energy that customers make back into the grid when they don't need it. As we'll talk about shortly, we think that this diverse set of infrastructure assets provides us with a unique vantage point and an independent one, which is highly credible perspective on how to approach the energy transformation. But before we get there, let me touch on the driving force behind our business, the vision that propels us forward. At Exelon, our purpose is powering a cleaner and brighter future for our customers and communities. And our vision is that reliable, clean, and affordable energy is essential to a brighter, more sustainable future. That's why we're committed to providing innovative, best-in-class performance and resources that will help drive progress for our customers and communities. Everything we do stems from that purpose and aligns with that vision. Our 19,000 plus employees are ready to lead the nation on the path to a clean energy future and enable our customers and communities to thrive. Let me now talk about how we see that energy transformation playing out and our strategy to lead it. On slide 8, I will start with the backdrop of the sector. There are key trends influencing the supply of energy, which you see on the left, and demand for energy, which you see on the right. On the supply side, you have an increasing desire for reliability and resilience, driven by greater reliance on the grid, and more concern about how weather is jeopardizing it. There's also a greater appreciation for the grid being safe and secure from physical and cyber threats that are an ever-increasing threat. Think about substation attacks. And of course, there's also an inevitable push toward clean. Certain jurisdictions may be moving faster, ours certainly are, but the trend is exorably toward clean with an unprecedented levels of federal and state support. Innovation driving improved cost and optionality and overall societal interest. Now, on the demand side, customers are also expecting a lot more as energy consumers. Customers want choice. They want smarter technology to keep up with their electric vehicles, their solar panels, and maybe their batteries. And while keeping pace with these trends, customers want energy to remain affordable and accessible. In the center of this change is us, Exelon, and we are well positioned to lead the way. We have 4 key pillars that ensure we are doing that in the midst of these trends. First, always focused on delivering customer value. We are making sure that the right tools are in place for customers to engage with the grid, giving them the opportunity to do things like managing their bills. Second, strengthening our infrastructure. I noted the desire for safe, secure, reliable, and resilient power. This pillar ensures we meet that desire with our investments. And third, modernizing our energy delivery systems. The grid must be able to accommodate the new technology available so that customers and suppliers can increasingly connect to it. And fourth, investing in our communities. At Exelon, we care deeply about the communities where we live and work. Our jurisdictional carbon commitments, STEM initiatives, our focus on supplier diversity, racial equity, and workforce development are just a few examples of how we are the engine of economic growth within the communities that we serve and ensure the sustainability of this transformation. But the last item I'll begin to cover on this slide is that this transformation is associated with some risk. Transition risk. This would be the risk induced by the pace of change associated with the transformation, particularly those driven by decarbonization. Grid reliance risk, or the risk associated with incremental reliance on our network in new ways. Think of moving all of the gasoline demand onto demand for power or sustainable gas. Physical climate change risk. While not specific to our sector, our assets are unquestionably at greater risk for climate change, and stakes are even higher as we depend more on the grid. And affordability risk. Changing what energy we consume and how we consume it will come at a cost, and affordability challenges will require constant vigilance. One of the most important jobs I have as CEO is ensuring a just and equitable energy transformation. Climate change disproportionately affects under-resourced communities, so the solutions to combat it must always keep these customers top of mind. I like to say it that no one can be left behind. Now, the rest of this presentation will talk about what we're doing within our own business to lead and manage these risks, how we're measuring the success of managing these risks for our customers through our operations, and then conclude with a discussion of what that all means for investors, you, our audience today. Turning to slide 9, we think about our role in the energy transformation as it pertains to a clean energy sector in 2 primary ways. First, we can take actions to drive our emissions down, which we describe in the middle of the slide. We lower the carbon footprint from our operations, for instance, transitioning our vehicle fleet to electric. We work within our existing regulatory constructs to procure more renewable energy. We use insulation approaches in our substations that are cleaner alternatives to FS6, which has been the industry standard historically. And we ensure we're facilitating distributed clean energy resources on our grid. Second, we can support the supply side and demand side trends I mentioned earlier to accelerate progress. On the supply side, as you can see on the left, we partner with our jurisdictions to thoughtfully decarbonize at a pace that aligns with science-based targets. Because we don't own generation and instead simply deliver what is generated within the power market in which we operate, which is PJM, we can't control what power we deliver, but we certainly have a seat at the table to advocate it for it being and getting cleaner. Additionally, we leverage our scale and our assets to support our even lead pilots of alternative fuels and technology. On the demand side, we innovate to expand or tap into new markets for cleaner options or behaviors. We want to take rebates, energy efficiency, and technology to the next level as it pertains to more sustainable energy consumption. We also work with commissions on rate design and incentives to further promote positive behaviors. To build on that first point, as it pertains to our own emissions, we are on a path to clean, which we outline on slide 10. We have committed to achieving net zero in our operations-driven emissions by 2050 from a 2015 baseline, with an interim goal of a 50% reduction. I'm happy to say that we are well on our way to achieving this goal, which is aligned with national science-based ambitions, and about 80% of our total reductions can be met with existing technology and policy. For instance, we are just under our goal to electrifying 30% of Exelon's fleet by 2025. We have about 17,000 miles of gas main and 1,737 miles, or 10% remain as outmoded cast iron or bare steel. We replaced roughly 70 miles in 2022 and expect to have the remaining replacements complete by 2042. We have 1.2 million gas services, of which 68,000 need to be replaced as copper or bare steel. We replaced over 13,000 in 2022, or roughly 20% of the total replacements needed. Now, let me be clear. This won't be easy, but it's a realistic goal and gives us time for our proactive efforts in emerging technologies and policies to bear the fruit needed to get us all the way there on the remaining 20%. Beyond our operation-driven emissions, our path to clean also includes a commitment to supporting our customers and communities in achieving their clean energy and climate goals. These include many of the actions I just mentioned, like providing rebates, investing in energy efficiency, interconnected distributed renewables, and advocating for policy to thoughtfully advance the energy transformation. I mentioned that we have a strong line of sight into achieving much of our path to clean goal, but we know that there's substantial opportunity to reach net zero goals using technologies and business models that haven't even been imagined yet, let alone commercialized. Slide 11 illustrates how we're involved across the innovation ecosystem to ensure we're learning about these future opportunities and encouraging their development, if not leading the way. We're most proud of our Climate Change Investment Initiative, which we refer to as 2C2I. 2C2I is a $20 million fund that we established jointly with the Exelon Foundation to invest in startups that show promise in supporting the energy transformation. It includes companies like Carbon Reform, a Philadelphia-based company that develops standalone carbon removal units for buildings, or ShowerStream, which developed technology to enable hotels to reduce energy and water waste, or Pearl, a provider of home certification services to promote a full, complete, and accurate valuation of energy investments for homeowners, encouraging incremental uptake. Now, we have countless additional examples of ways in which we are supporting emerging markets and products. But this leads me to our next slide. Our discussion around what we're doing at Exelon to lead the energy transformation wouldn't be complete without talking about how we're investing in our employees and communities. First, we want to make sure we offer a safe, welcoming, and rewarding workplace for our employees. We want to foster a culture of innovation, which necessitates one of diversity, equity, and inclusion to ensure we're sourcing the best ideas to serve our customers. Then we need to ensure we have a qualified pipeline of talent to meet the needs of a growing industry that will continually need new ideas to meet the evolving challenges of a transforming energy economy. Whether it's our STEM Academy, which has helped 1,000 girls since its launch in 2018, our Workforce Academies, which have offered nearly 600 graduates job opportunities, or one of a myriad of other programs to reduce barriers or provide support, we are ensuring that the talent of the future is there when the industry needs it. Last, beyond ensuring that we're developing talent locally, we have a variety of avenues through which we look to engage and uplift our communities. For instance, 62% of our diverse supplier spend was spent locally in our operating areas. We've connected our customers to more than $1 billion of energy assistance over the last 2 years, with a 25% increase in 2022 over 2021. And our employees volunteered over 126,000 hours in our communities in 2022. Before we wrap up on how this all leads to our industry-leading value proposition, I'd like to come back to the risks that I flagged that are associated with the energy transformation, starting with slide 14. As a reminder, there are 4 key risks: transition risk, grid reliance risk, physical climate change risk, and affordability risk. We are a company of operators and engineers, and as such, we know there's value and power in measurement and metrics. I'd like to share some of the key metrics we track that provide helpful insight for us into how we're progressing in the energy transformation and whether we're managing these risks in line with our standards of excellence. First, let's talk about some of the supply and demand metrics we are directly targeting. On the left side, you can see the progress we have made on energy efficiency, where the amount of megawatt hours saved has grown by almost 50% since 2016, representing a 6.6% growth rate. The energy saved in 2022, assuming our average residential retail rate, equates to over $30 million in customer savings, showing there's a significant affordability benefit. I'll also point out that the greenhouse gas emissions avoided with those savings have grown, but not nearly to the same degree. That's because the marginal emission rate associated with power generation has decreased, which is a good thing. This gets back to the point I made earlier, which is that while we can't control the power we deliver, we do have a significant stake and a seat at the table to advocate for policy to clean the supply stack. On the right, you can see the influence we've had on the supply side. We've increased the amount of renewable generation capacity on the grid through our customer programs by more than double since 2016, growing at a 22% annualized rate through 2022. Similarly, the emission benefits of this supply growth have grown at a slower rate, but they are nonetheless material, illustrating we're making progress on this journey. Drilling deeper into affordability on slide 15, This is a critical concept that will continue to evolve as the energy sector transforms. As customers shift more of their spend from certain energy sources to others, such as from gasoline-powered cars to electric vehicles, a simple evaluation of bill growth will not tell the whole story. As a result, we look at a variety of metrics to help us gain a more complete picture of where we are while continuing to advance our thinking on how we can be more targeted in understanding where our customers are more exposed and where we have an opportunity as a company to do better. But you can see in these two charts that on a number of metrics, we are in a good place. On the left, you can see our bills as a percentage of median income are significantly lower than the national average, 1.3 to 1.7% versus the average of 2.1%. Customers in our territories are spending less of their income on electricity. Average electric bills are also at or below the national average in all cases. On the right, you can see our electric rates. In the cities in which we operate, we are at or below the national average. And even more powerful, our rates are 23% below the average of the top 20 cities in the United States, which is a more comparable measure. Monitoring and managing this risk is a key part of the energy transformation. Last, on slide 16, I'll review ways in which we monitor the grid's reliance and physical climate change risk. 3 of these charts represent a number of ways that we measure our operational performance. The top left is safety. That measures how frequently we have customer outages on our system. Here, the less frequent, the better. And you can see it's gotten better, and we're a top quartile organization in our industry. The top right is CAIDI. Essentially, it measures how long an average customer's outage lasts. Again, the lower, the better, and you can see that is trending in the right direction, despite more challenging conditions, and we're a top performer in our industry. Finally, in the bottom left is SAIDI. It's a broader measurement of how long customers are out on our system. This ensures that we are getting a wide-ranging perspective on customer outages and not leaving certain customers behind. Again, trending well and performance is top-notch. So we do feel encouraged by the performance we have sustained amidst the evolving climate. And it's a testament not only to our dedicated employees, but also the investments we make in the system, which I'll discuss in the final section of my prepared remarks. The final chart on the bottom right covers customer satisfaction. Keeping a pulse on this allows us to get a broad perspective on a variety of risks. But it really gets at whether the customer is getting value out of the service that we are providing. Keeping the customer front and center throughout this energy transformation will be key to sustaining the momentum over this multi-decade transition. Let me conclude with a summary of what these trends imply for our financial outlook and value proposition, beginning with our investment outlook on slide 18. The energy transformation will require investment, which creates both the opportunity and the risk. We know we need to invest in the system to make the necessary progress on the journey while doing it at the appropriate pace to manage costs for our customers. Our $31 billion four-year capital plan consists of a very discrete buildup of thousands of projects, not one of which is more than 1% of that total. You can see examples on the right, such as ComEd's Goodings Grove transmission line, or PECO substation, or BGE's $300 million Erdman to Summerfield transmission expansion, which is a multi-year, multi-phase project. These investments result in increasing net investment in America's infrastructure, advancing the energy priorities in our jurisdictions, and growing at about 8% per year. With so much investment required in the system, a big part of ensuring the interests are aligned and balanced across all stakeholders is having the right rate recovery mechanisms in place. As you can see in this next slide, 19, on the left-hand side, we illustrate what sort of rate structures we have to cover our investments. Effectively, all of our growth and investment is covered by programs that don't simply compensate you for what you did, what is called historical test year rate making. Instead, these programs, whether they're multi-year plans, forward-looking test years, or investment trackers, have an element of upfront alignment with our commissions and other stakeholders on what we are going to invest in and where to ensure we're aligned on where we are going to and how much we expect to spend. These constructs provide us the certainty to efficiently plan and execute our work with confidence on recovery. They ensure that we also earn returns in line with those authorized, known as reducing regulatory lag in our industry. They improve our credit profile, reducing borrowing costs, and thus costs for our customers. And they bring a level of transparency and predictability to the rate-making process that benefits all parties. Our goal then is to execute on these plans so that stakeholders get the benefits they expect for the cost that they expected and continue to have confidence in us as partners in this energy transformation. These balanced, constructive rate-making mechanisms are what ensure that we make a fair return on our investment, which is illustrated on slide 20. As part of the revenues those rate mechanisms establish, they set a return on equity for our net investment. And then through disciplined execution of our plans, we expect to achieve a consolidated return on equity of 9 to 10% across our jurisdictions. This ensures that our shareholders are fairly compensated for their investment in Exelon as it navigates the risks and opportunities associated with the energy transformation, which I detailed earlier. Moving to slide 21, earning appropriate and predictable returns on our investments are also a key piece of ensuring we can maintain a strong balance sheet. A strong balance sheet is important because it ensures an efficient cost of capital and the sustained ability to invest on behalf of our customers. We currently have solid investment-grade credit ratings across the platform, and rating agencies have awarded us the lowest downgrade threshold in our sector for our BBB rating due to many of the characteristics that I've already highlighted to you today. We are fully regulated and do not own generation as a transmission and delivery-only utility. We have top-notch operations with over 10.5 million customers across 7 regulatory areas, and we benefit from our unique size and scale advantages. Our investment plan is very deconcentrated, with no one project comprising more than 1% of our $31 billion capital plan over the next 4 years. And the agencies recognize the constructive rate-making mechanisms that limit the risk of recovery in our investments. As we work with our jurisdictions and explore opportunities for further investment, we will continue to use a balanced funding strategy to maintain a strong capital structure. Turning to the next slide, the net result of our growing investment in the system, roughly an 8% growth in rate base that earns 9 to 10% ROEs, is 6 to 8% annualized earnings growth through 2026. That growth rate is one of the highest in the sector, reflecting the infrastructure needs in our jurisdictions and their progressive goals to set the pace for the nation's energy transformation. Whether it's replacing aging infrastructure or withstanding more frequent and impactful storms, ensuring the grid can keep pace with the expanded electrification of our economy through electric vehicles and heat pumps, accommodating the increasingly distributed bidirectional flows as solar, battery, storage, and demand response technologies become cheaper and more sophisticated, or ensuring our transmission network is adjusting for the transition of the generation supply from traditional fossil fuel plants to renewables, the investment needs will continue, and they will last for decades. As we recover this investment, we will return a steady portion of that back to investors with a targeted 60% dividend payout ratio, ensuring our dividends grows in line with our earnings. I will conclude by summarizing our value proposition for shareholders on slide 22, which encapsulates what we discussed today. We have an industry-leading platform to lead the energy transformation. unmatched size and scale as the leading T&D utility in the United States, a diverse mix of geographies, including some of the biggest cities in the country, along with coastal and suburban territories, a committed organization that runs our operations at top-notch levels, which is increasingly difficult in our changing climate, and yet also increasingly important with an increasing push towards electrification and reliance on the grid, and a company that sets the bar in supporting our communities with industry-leading workforce development programs, customer assistance initiatives, and efforts that support local underserved areas. We have worked with our jurisdictions to establish rate-making mechanisms that support the grid of the future, ensuring that we're aligned with the levels of types of investments across our jurisdictions and what they are seeking, a fair return to our investors. These constructive relationships with our jurisdictions support a financially strong utility that can continue to invest in the grid and weather the risks of climate change and other events while bringing a returning value to our shareholders. For investors, this results in an industry-leading and attractive risk-adjusted 9 to 11% total shareholder return. Again, I greatly appreciate your attention and interest in Exelon, and I look forward to any questions that this audience may have. Thank you again.
Thank you, Calvin, for really a terrific presentation. So many places to go. We'll ask a few questions. I was intrigued by your 2C, 2I investment in innovation, which is great. But I also think your presentation was also a 2C, 2I. It was clear and concise, and it was integrated and informative. So thank you. You lived the acronym there as we go forward. So a few questions that have come in from the audience and from folks. This is a time of partisan politics and the like. Geopolitical risk, is that something, how do you kind of look at that? It's a topical area. And how do you prepare for those types of discussions, conversations?
No, great question. I can tell you geopolitical risks come in our business in a couple of forms. One, let me just talk about on the security side. When the war in Ukraine first broke out, there was a heightened level of awareness on security, especially cybersecurity. And we see as we invest more in technology across the system, that risk is increasing, and bad actors are continuously trying to penetrate our system, as well as utilities across the country, to really impact. And that, I think, is impacted by geopolitical risk. Let me give you an example. We know for a fact that in any time of war or chaos, first thing you do is attack the grid. So from a cyber and physical side, you need to ensure that you're protected. We also see challenges on the geopolitical side on the supply chain. We as America have gotten very protective of where we get certain components. Now, as a utility, I have all types of technology from large transformers to kits that put all of that together. And be quite honest, a lot of that was coming from China and other places where our government has said you no longer can get certain pieces or certain IT components from certain countries. So it put a strain on the supply organization. But because of our size and scale, we've been able to manage that. But those are risks that I didn't worry about a few years ago, except for these geopolitical times that we're in.
Great, thanks. Let's go over the next few years. What key governance improvements do you anticipate? Are there areas that you're looking at as you think about a governance perspective as it relates to Exelon?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. One, I do value the Exelon board structure of a non-executive chair. I think that's a strong governance model for us. Now, I've been in organizations where I've seen you have the CEO as also the chair. But what I have seen for us is that non-executive chair is a nice play, and we continue to drive that. I think having that diverse experience on our boards. So keep in mind, for our structure, we have not only the Exelon board, which has the governance and oversight, each of our utilities also have a board. I have revamped over the last couple of years each of those utility boards, bringing in not only business leaders, but nonprofit leaders who are actively engaged in the community, that have a voice at the table. And now I chair each of the utility boards. So that level of engagement from a governance model ensures that we are on top of each and everything that's happening. I chair the boards, and my CEOs of the respective utilities is the vice chair. And each of those boards must have a preponderance of independent directors. That is a couple of things that we have done over the last couple of years that have been really powerful for us.
Certainly making progress in scope 1 and scope 2 reporting. Will you set scope 3 goals?
It's funny you say that. I was reading a report last night. It is we do want to. Now, as a non-generator, that is much more difficult for us. So what we are doing is we're partnering with our jurisdictions on how we can really have an impact on scope 3, because I never want to set a goal, the one I can't really control, and 2, I can't adequately measure. So we're diving into that now and how we can have a broader, a deeper voice in that effort. So we're looking into it.
Right. And we applaud you for not just setting, goals willy-nilly, but having goals. You can have aspirations out there.
That's
but
right.
Having goals that you have a plan to go deliver as you go forward.
For those of Daryl, for those of you who know us, Exelon wasn't the leader in setting our path to clean. The reason we weren't the leader in setting that is because we wanted to ensure that we had all the metrics in place that any of you at any given time can say, where are you at on that journey? And we can give you real answers. We were not going to be one of those companies that just set a goal and then not talk about it. We talk about it frequently, and I constantly look at where we are in that progress. That's why I was able to tell you where we were on our fleet electrification efforts, where we were on our net zero goal since our 2015 baseline, because at any point, any of you can call me and I can give you that information in real time.
Yeah, I think I'd focus on a few key things with specific milestones you can track.
That's right.
Makes sense. When you achieve those, you move on to others as you go on. So as you think on path to clean, are there any, and these last couple of questions are going to give you some choices here, but are there any particular technologies you're most interested in to kind of get to those science-based targets?
Yeah, I think for us, one is what type of technology is going to come for our large fleet vehicles? Because right now, you go into any of our service centers for our utilities, you'll see a fleet of Ford F-150 Lightnings, you'll see the Rivians and so forth. But when I get to those large bucket trucks, what type of technology is going to allow me to get those off of the gas-driven emissions? Like we put idle mitigation efforts within, but that's a real opportunity for us on our path to clean. I would also say on the path to clean, how can I expand the capacity of my distribution and transmission lines, preventing me or allowing me to run more clean electrons through them without building new transmission lines in that process? And then I would also say I'm looking at technology around battery storage. What we can do as a company to incorporate battery storage within our substations, allow us to continue to help our customers. And then I would say the last piece, what more can we do around energy efficiency? Great. When I invest in energy efficiency, I'll allow you as my customer to save money real time and also benefit the climate. And that is the things that we're looking at on our path to clean.
Fantastic. One last question. This might be the toughest question you ever get.
Yeah.
Bears, Eagles, Ravens, Commanders. Which way are you going?
Depends on what jurisdiction I'm in at the time.
Great answer.
Yeah. So my team, you can appreciate.
Not the Patriots.
Yeah, you can appreciate this, Daryl. All of my teams, they've said, hey, when you come here for a game, you have to wear the home jersey. And it's amazing. But we'll just leave it at that.
And by the way, that's especially true in Philadelphia. But we'll stop on that. But thanks so much, Calvin, for really a clear and concise plan. It's integrated, it's connected to value, it's connected to your key stakeholders. So greatly appreciated.
Well, as I started this off, thank you to you and your team for having me, and I look forward to future conversations.
Great. We'll be next up with the CEO of Mitsubishi in a few minutes.